Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily News. I'm Nicholas Richardson. Candidates are neck and neck and the final fight for every single vote is on. Key to the outcome of the race for the White House could be the votes of the Polish community, which in the United States reaches up to 10 million people.
Ostatnie kilkadziesiąt godzin.
Only a few dozen hours separate us from the first results of the United States presidential election. Both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are competing for the votes of Polish Americans, and there's a lot to fight for. It's almost 10 million people. What will determine the Polish vote?
I think they're sort of crazy, to be honest with you, and I hope the Polish people can get out and vote for somebody that shares their values about things on religion and on life and on work and work ethic. I should get most of the Polish vote. I hope I get all of it.
And there is a lot to fight for. Up to 10 million Americans claim Polish ancestry. 800,000 of them live in Pennsylvania. And looking back at the 2016 and 2020 elections, their votes could again prove decisive.
Ohio, Michigan,
Pennsylvania, but also other states are places where the voice of the Polish-American community can be very important, perhaps even decisive. It is important to note that Polish-American cooperation under the presidencies of Donald Trump and Andrzej Duda has produced tangible results. These include the abolition of American visa requirements for Poles and the diversification of energy sources, making Poland less dependent on Russian gas. But this alliance is also worth its weight in gold in a geopolitical context.
Polska jako...
What are the implications for Poland? Poland, as an indispensable ally of the United States, could play a role in this part of the world, i.e. in Europe, as an ally of the United States that helps stabilize NATO's eastern flank. I say this because the Republicans understand this very well. Poland is the answer to Germany's political indolence.
The Polish people love me and I love the Polish people. No president has done more for the Polish people.
The fight for the American presidency is a close race and every vote will count. Donald Trump has been officially endorsed by Polish diaspora organizations. The Long Island branch of the Polish-American Congress has also endorsed Donald Trump for president. Under his leadership, America was better off domestically and the world was safer than under the Biden-Harris administration. Trump looks forward to working with Poland, deepening our strategic relationship at every level, military, security, energy, economic, trade and technology, as he did during his term in 2016. Why Donald Trump? He proved to be a very good president. When he was president, America prospered. And now, the last 4 years, it's too sad even to talk about. More than 20 million people have entered the country illegally thanks to the current administration. And for Poles who live across the pond, the most important thing is the concrete proposals of the candidates that affect their quality of life. Polish Americans, like all Americans, are concerned about their standard of living. All Poles say they don't rate the last 4 years well in terms of their economic well-being. They will vote for Trump.
Poland is the geographic heart of Europe. But more importantly, in the Polish people, we see the soul of Europe. Your nation is great because your spirit is great and your spirit is strong.
A will that could determine the outcome of the US presidential elections. Russian influence in Polish science has been built up over the years, as exemplified by Collegium Humanum. In the light of information revealed today by Gazeta Polska Codzienna, the University of Siedlce, with which the commander of the military counterintelligence service, General Jarosław Strojczyk, is strongly associated, has for years worked closely with Russian and Belarusian universities. What's worse, this cooperation has already accelerated after Russia's annexation of Crimea. However, the media are silent about this cooperation. When news of the Collegium Humanum's close cooperation with Putin's academy in Moscow hit the public space, the topic rightly did not leave the headlines. Now that the identical ties of the University of Siedlce have been revealed, the mainstream media are loudly silent. University of Siedlce cooperated with exactly the same university, the Presidential Academy in Moscow. Therefore, if General Strojczyk is investigating Russian influence in this Collegium Humanum story, for example, then why isn't he investigating at the University of Siedlce? The scale of cooperation between Siedlce University and Russian and Belarusian universities is striking. The University of Shedlce has signed as many as 24 agreements with Russian universities, 17 of which have the status of state universities. The cooperation also includes universities with which no cooperation agreements have been signed, which, in the system of the state ruled by the Putin's St. Petersburg group, play an important role in building the regime's social base. In contrast, among the 7 agreements with Belarusian universities, 5 involve state schools. All over Russia, there are universities with which Shedlce University has cooperated. Special Poland-Russia conferences were even held within its walls, with the participation of Russian ambassador Sergei Andreev himself.
Mówimy tutaj o inicjatywie.
We are talking about a cynical initiative that was organized with such a very high intensity after the annexation of Crimea by Russia and after the outbreak of the first iteration of the war in 2014. The cooperation consisted of exchanges of lecturers and mutual trips to Poland and Russia. Shockingly, when the whole world was imposing sanctions on Vladimir Putin's Russia after 2014 in response to the war in Ukraine, cooperation between Shedlce University and Eastern universities flourished at its best.
Od wiosny 2014 roku.
Since the spring of 2014, Shedlce has been, one might say, pressing on the gas when it comes to cooperation with Russians. Large-scale Polish-Russian initiatives have emerged and more agreements were signed. Despite so many clear examples of compromising state security, the head of the government commission to investigate Russian influence, General Jarosław Strojczyk, does not comment on the matter.
Uniwersytet w Siedlcach.
The University of Shedlce is where the blade of counterintelligence should be focused. I ask such a question. I ask it in public and on purpose. Which counterintelligence, whether civilian or perhaps military, which is headed by General Strojczyk, deals with the threats related to Russian contacts of this university? General Strojczyk's close acquaintance with the rector of the University of Shedlce, as well as the personal involvement of the Polish counterintelligence commander in cooperation with the Russians, leads us to doubt that the Shedlce University will be inspected with the same precision as the Collegium Humanum. Maia Sandu has won Moldova's presidential election. She defeated pro-Russian candidate Alexander Stoyanoglu in the second round. Observers say it was a close call that could affect the security not only of Moldova, but of the entire region, including Poland.
The first moments after the polls closed in Moldova were certainly not calm for the incumbent president. According to data from provincial commissions, her opponent, the former prosecutor general, who is considered pro-Russian, had a slight advantage. In the end, when all the votes were counted, it was Maia Sandu who won the election by a wide margin. The big cities and the western part of the country were the deciding factors. More than 930,000 people voted for Maia Sandu, that is 55.41%. Alexander Stoyanoglu received more than 748,000 votes, or 44.59%. This was an extremely important election for Moldova. It decided between a pro-Western or pro-Russian direction for further foreign policy. Moldova, you are the winners. Today, dear Moldovans, you gave a lesson in democracy that deserves to be written in history books. Today, you have saved Moldova. No one has lost in our choice for a dignified future. The Moldovan elections were extremely important, not only from the point of view of the Moldovans themselves, but also from the point of view of the neighboring countries and the entire region of the eastern flank of Europe, and even of NATO itself. Above all, I would like to see peace in and around the country. I hope that we will continue on the European path. With the war in Ukraine and Putin's imperial inclinations, a pro-Russian president in Moldova would be a disaster for the entire balance of power in Europe. If a pro-Russian candidate whom Moscow was betting on and supporting very actively had won, then we would have had another piece in Putin's puzzle. We got another shift westward, and in fact, another conflict that could have started, as far as just Transnistria and all that is happening on NATO's eastern flank. According to Moldovan election observers, there were a record number of violations of the law and attempts to influence the results, mostly in favor of the pro-Russian candidate during both the campaign and the voting itself.
Spain is battling the aftermath of the natural disaster that killed at least 217 people. A major cleanup and reconstruction effort is underway in the flood-devastated Valencia region. Thousands of volunteers, military and police, are helping affected residents.
Cleanup work is hampered by dire weather conditions. It rained again last night. Cleaned up mud is back on the streets, which deepens the feeling of helplessness. This can happen to anyone. That's why I'm here. I think helping is a human reflex. It shows our humanity. It has nothing to do with the country. In response to appeals from residents, more troops have been sent to the region. For the past few days, there was no army here, but volunteers arrived by the hundreds. They helped us a lot. Now the soldiers have appeared, but we have been waiting for them since Tuesday. There are already 10,000 territorial defense soldiers in the Valencia area. We found ourselves in a situation where the civilian population had already taken the initiative. They have made everything very easy for us. And now we have a road to travel, a very long way to travel, but we will stand by them until the end. Valencia residents hit pots and pans in protest against Spanish authorities. As the victims say, the alerts reached them when the water reached their necks. Victims are still in garages. Families are looking for their loved ones. Please help us. Please send more help. The Spanish royal couple and Prime Minister Sanchez, visiting flood-hit Paiporta near Valencia, were booed, called names, and pelted with mud. People let out their frustration at the delayed and, in their view, inadequate aid. Before each La Liga soccer match on the weekend, a minute of silence was observed to honor the flood victims. Soccer players across the country stand in solidarity with the families of the victims. Rescuers have not yet reached all flooded areas. The water has destroyed roads. Trash, trees, debris, and cars carried by the water have blocked access. Dozens of people are still considered missing.
That's the news. Thank you for watching, and from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.